Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Shane, and welcome back to another episode of The Horror Basement. Today, we're going to have something a little bit different for you. Today, I'm actually going to be bringing you a book review. I just recently read a book by Stephen King titled Apt Pupil. I have my copy right here. Now, this book was released back in 1982 originally as a set of short stories. And along with Apt Pupil, this collection of short stories had the stories that went on to inspire Stand By Me and The Shawshank Redemption. So this collection, or this anthology that Stephen King released, was highly successful. And you did hear that right, I said short stories. Stephen King considers this 220 odd pages to be a novella or a short story as opposed to a proper novel, which is part of the reason that I've never read any Stephen King prior to this point, but I'd like to actually get into it. But, most of his actual novels are run probably like 800 to 1,000 pages. That's kind of rough, especially if you read as slowly as I do. Um, but this story follows Todd Bowden. He is a 13-year-old all-American boy growing up in California in the 1970s. And he realizes that one of his neighbors, one of the old men living in his neighborhood, is actually a former SS officer and an escaped Nazi war criminal living under a false identity. So instead of doing the logical thing and going to the police or Interpol with this information, Todd decides to go over and blackmail this guy who's been living under the false name of Arthur Denker, who is really Kurt Dusander, the former head of a concentration camp and, like I said, SS officer. Todd wants to know all the gory details of the Holocaust because Todd is a pretty fucked up kid, and you see that as the story goes on. But he blackmails Dusander in order to get information and get all the minute details that they won't tell you in the history books. And this starts a years long relationship between the two, where Todd is constantly going to visit Dusander, and they're kind of trying to outsmart each other. Dusander is saying that if they find me out or you tell anyone, you're going down too because you've known about this for years now, and it's all that. And they both end up, on top of their visits with each other, they both end up taking up the hobby of killing homeless people and, drunk vagrants around the town they live in. And this is actually, independent of each other. So it's interesting how, it's alluded to before they really get into it that Todd has some issues that he hasn't dealt with. He has some latent, sexual deviancy and sadistic tendencies that are just developing, with his puberty, and being, spending all this time with Dusander is only, stoking the flames of that. But, overall, I really enjoyed it. I'm not going to go too much farther into the plot because I'll let y'all read that and experience it for yourselves. Overall, I really enjoyed it. It's interesting to think that this was released as part of that collection of short stories back in 1982, because, you have this character of Todd Bowden, who is a troubled, white middle-class adolescent who is exposed to yeah, now Doosander at this point, he's just like a sad, chain smoking, drunk old man, but he is essentially like a ghost of the Nazism and the fascism that he once was back when he was doing all that stuff. So, and that influence that Doosander has on Bowden further like radicalizes him towards, you know, violence and mistreatment of other people. Um, so I wouldn't say it's a I say it's more of a psychological thriller than a horror in the traditional sense. Um, but it's very, very atmospheric and well written, and the interplay between the two characters is really enjoyable and compelling. So overall, I would definitely recommend this if you're just getting into, if you haven't read any Stephen King previously and you want to get something that's short, you know, not like super, like supernatural, like, you know, the Cocaine Year Stephen King, where it's like It or something where there's this crazy supernatural angle, but you want like a good grounded psychological horror that won't take you a year to read. I would highly recommend starting with Apt Pupil. Alright, and that's going to be it for today's video. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you all in the next one. Thank you.